I've been warning you for some time about China's threat to the United States right here at home. Nothing should bring that idea more home to you than discover this second Chinese biolab right here in the United States of A. The biolab we just found in Las Vegas, but it's much deeper, much bigger than that, and much worse. And that portends things far worse than we even want to imagine. For example, I've been talking for years about sleeper cells in America. I don't, I think I was probably the first YouTuber that talked about that since the inception of this channel, in fact. And we know that a whole lot of Chinese military aged young men, just men, came across the southern border when it was so wide open. Now, the real threat is that, my friends, it turns out there's a lot more than we thought. These guys, you see them, they were all in fit shape, good shape. We saw them standing in military parade rest. We've had people that followed them from the Darien Gap, even from when they came into Peru and other places, all the way up to the United States, and even followed some to ranges where they were playing with nugs. If you don't know what a nug is, flip that word around. And what they find is downright frightening. Uh, but here's what I've heard today. I've heard that the numbers for those individuals, and I hear that they're mainly special forces. I've heard from an reliable intel source that there's 200,000 of these individuals here in the United States. Now, that number is not a number I can verify, but we do know it's a lot. I can tell you a handful of people, individuals, could take down our power grid employing methods similar to the dry run attack that occurred on the Metcalf station near San Jose, California substation. It doesn't take a lot to take down our power grid. They're planning something far bigger. That's what I was really concerned with. Why so many? Why so many of them? Well, now there is another channel on YouTube, Dave Hodges, who he has an answer to that. He says they're planning a Tet offensive right here in our homeland. Now, you may ask, what's a Tet offensive? Now, some of you who are familiar with the Vietnam War or who remember back to 1968 knows well what that was. It was a case where it was like the New Year's there in Vietnam, and they thought they had a truce, a little ceasefire going with the North Vietnamese for the holiday, and suddenly everything started exploding everywhere. Attacks occurred all over the place, every capital city in South Vietnam and military bases. The attacks were everywhere from the grassroots up, from inside. The attacks were horrendous. And it really turned the American public against that war probably as much as anything. And those attacks really caught everybody off guard. They didn't know how to handle them. And it was horrible. So you can imagine the Chinese have been a student of that day. And furthermore, it's been suggested that they could pull an Operation Spiderweb, just like Ukraine pulled on Russia on us. Now, we've not even gotten the bioweapons yet. But what we're looking at here is a huge offensive that could occur right here on terra firma. Now, if they did this would be in context with a bigger war. Like maybe they've attacked Iran and decided that they had to take us out and were firing on Guam and our military bases in Japan and other areas or in the region, Philippines. So it would be part of a general Chinese assault on America to take us down. And guys, I've already warned you guys, if our power grid goes down, it's estimated that within less than a year, and some people like John Hollerman have had on this program, says it's more like 3 months, that would be losing 9 out of 10 American citizens through societal collapse. I mean, you won't have water, you won't have fuel, you won't have money. The big cities will be food deserts. And the worst thing, the sewers won't work, the water won't work, disease is going to spread. This is where the biolabs comes in, because maybe they want to push it just a little bit further. Like 9/10 out of us will probably already be knocked out. Maybe they want it to happen faster and to take out even more people. Now, I've also heard it said that, there's some sources in China have been saying, hey, they need resources and they really want to take America. Now, what you got to know is the Chinese don't like to coexist. They wouldn't want us here. And maybe the best way to fix that might be through a massive number of biolabs right here in the United States. Russia, back in the Cold War, we didn't know it until the wall fell. They had their ICBMs loaded with nuclear weapons, but they had another set of ICBMs with refrigerated warheads. Those refrigerated warheads carried weaponized smallpox because the Russians feared if they attacked us, that once whoever survived the nuclear war, the survivors would be so mad if we had to swim across the Bering Strait that we'd come over there and whip the living snot out of them, the rednecks among us that survived. They didn't want that to happen. They wanted to totally, completely decimate our population. And that could be what those biolabs are really all about. Remember Wuhan? Didn't they do so? And aren't they doing some really interesting research? Remember I talked about the two colonels who wrote that book about total warfare in China and how they viewed biological weapons as part of the mix of things to employ. My friends, the United States is the biggest apple in the world. We live in the greatest land there is because we're surrounded by oceans. It's hard for anybody to get to us typically, except for the nation that maybe has the largest shipping fleet in the world. I did a video once of how they could take us with their container ships, how they could pack container ships with soldiers. Later, I showed the same thing for robots. So just something to think about, my friends. Tet Offensive in 1968. Oh, your dad was in it. Well, you know all about it then. I'm sure your dad told you some things about it. Sometimes soldiers don't like to talk about things like that. Maybe he did. There are some things my dad wouldn't talk about from World War II. So the whole thing is that they have infiltrated our society up one side and down the other. The FBI, even back in the President Taterhead's administration, was telling us about their plans to take out our municipal water supplies. And then it dawned on me, well, maybe it's not just chemicals, maybe it's bioagents, and the bioagents would then spread. It wouldn't just hit the person who drunk it, but it would spread to their friends, their neighbors. And they may have agents that are, it takes a while to incubate. They can be infectious for days before the symptoms show up. There are diseases like that, like Nipah, for example. I think it's 21 days incubation period, but it's still infectious. So what could they have in store? Apparently, these biolabs have many agents and many biological agents. This last one, they didn't even label them. The one in Ridley, California, they labeled the vials. This time, they didn't. And here's another curious fact. Turns out that house in Las Vegas, they used it as a one of those places they rent. What do you call it? Where you rent places out, individual homes and such. What's that called? Shoot, I can't think of it right now. Anyway, they were renting it out to like tourists and so forth. And apparently, quite a few of them got respiratory illnesses, and even the maid who was hired to clean the place. So there's a lot to take into account here. There's a lot to be seriously watching now because, guys, why in the world would a nation like China take such risk that they could be discovered at bringing all this stuff into the United States, these biolabs? And why is the United States not jumping up and down over it? Why was it allowed to happen? How, like I asked him the last time I talked about this, how in the world is it? And this is what infuriates me, that you got a guy connected to owner of that biolab in Ridley, California. 3 years later, it turns out he owned this house in Vegas. Why didn't they connect the dots? Why weren't they out researching this stuff? For all this bragging and talking, the day of the fusion, for all this bragging and talking about how we track everything, for all this talk about the powers of Palantir, it looks like we missed it. It looks like, our law enforcement, our FBI was asleep at the switch because they're chasing all the wrong stuff. This should be their number one priority, is to get out sleeper cell agents, particularly the Chinese, because they're the most dangerous. The Iranian ones are dangerous too. All these sleeper cell agents are dangerous, and they may all work hand in glove. And it may not just be the Chinese, because who else is on the bankroll of the Chinese? You know, the Chinese launders money for some big organizations that operate illegally here in the United States. Yeah, the drug gangs. They launder their money through Chinese banks. So why is our head in the sand over this stuff? Why has our head been in the sand over F ball? It starts with F and ends in all. You know what I mean? Trying to be careful what I say here. Why in the world? It comes from China. Oh yeah, okay. Well, China got good. They quit shipping that stuff, but they ship all the constituents to who? The cartels, mainly in Mexico, maybe somewhat in South America, mainly Mexico. And then they finish the manufacturing and ship it on up here. And then the Chinese banks launder their money. I've been warning you guys, the Chinese have been at war with us, and we've been too dang dumb to know it. And I've been ringing the bell on it. I'll ring it loud. I'll ring it hard. Amen. Mike Piercy. I've been ringing the bell, and it's like everybody's asleep at the switch. They've hacked our grid. They've hacked us up one side and down the other. It's like they got belts and suspenders and backup belts and backup spinners and backup belts and backup suspenders, all aimed at you and me right here at home. We've never been in a war ever in the history of this country when we faced an enemy that had such pervasive control inside our society, that was controlling a lot of our schools and had funding a lot of the dissident activities right here in the United States. Yeah, remember me talking about Roy Singham and how his money goes into a lot of these so-called peaceful protests? So, yeah, and they're forming networks. I got another whole story to do on this. They're forming networks, guys. So, my friends, we are in a tough situation. We are in a tough spot. And whether we want a war with China or not, they're liable to bring it to us. They've definitely got all the chess pieces in place to do major harm to us. You know, if they did an Operation Spiderweb, they could take out a lot of our aircraft on the tarmac. Not to mention, you know, with all this farmland they got, so when our planes start taking off, somebody with a shoulder-fired missiles on some of that farmland, watching our planes take to the air, or drones, could do great damage to them. Somebody's flying over the egg drone full of that F-ball or other stuff. Nerve agents can make people on the tarmac be doing the funky chicken, including the people that's supposed to be running our airborne command post, the doomsday planes, even Air Force One. Who knows how pervasive their attacks could get. So they wouldn't even have to use nukes. And then I've covered how they could EMP us on top of that by sneaking balloons over us. You wouldn't even know it until it's too late, and you probably wouldn't even know it at all. And I showed how those things are pretty darn stealthy and really hard to take out with the weapons that we got today. It could be done, but we're not set up to do it. So we've got we have huge vulnerabilities here, huge vulnerabilities. And if it's a Ted offensive type thing, they're all just waiting for the go word. And then all manner of mayhem breaks out everywhere. That's what Ted offensive was. Because they got more than enough people here to take down our power grid, take out our municipal systems, and even do the virus stuff. So maybe they really want to just take us out. And then they could wait a year till most of us is starved or taking each other out or met our demise through bioagents, which fits in the theory of warfare in the noise that I covered on my Galactic Greg's channel with Alex Lightman. You need to go watch that video I did with him on preventing AI apocalypse. So we talked a bit about this too, that, you know, they can conduct warfare in such a way that you won't even know what's happening. You'll think it's natural. And that's the best Sun Tzu way to conduct warfare. Airbnb. Thank you, New Days. That was the word I was looking for. Airbnb. Yeah, it was an Airbnb. I got a friend that runs Airbnb, a big one right here in this area. So, my friends, it turns out the Airbnbs are being used for all kind of espionage activity too. So, and there's another thing. For all you people in Europe and in Canada who are all thrilled to be getting these low-cost Chinese cars, you should watch the last episode of the China Show. They showed one of these cars. The problem with them is they will get where the doors won't open. They won't unlock, especially when you're in a bad situation. The doors will just get stuck. And they got these lithium ion batteries that can go in a thermal runaway. And then we're showing where somebody hit a fence and you didn't see any damage to the car, but the guy's kid was in the back seat. He got out and he was trying to get his kid out, and the door was locked. It wasn't open. Fortunately, some bystander came by and busted the window with a big rock, and he pulled his kids out just as the car was catching flames. The whole car got burned up. It shouldn't have burned up. This was not the kind of event that would destroy an ordinary car. I mean, he just went over a chain link fence, and you wouldn't even see any damage to the car when he hit it. But it was enough that vibrations or whatever set those thermal batteries off. Those thermal batteries are bad to go off. And, if you're living in cold countries like Canada, do you really want to be caught out in a blizzard, a snowstorm, one of these things? Here's another thing. They're major data collection devices. Those things listen to everything you say. They record it all. They record where you're going. And theoretically, they got off switches and maybe even switches to set off the batteries. All you got to do is overheat the batteries. If they got some little heater in those battery cells, they could set those battery banks off. So if they're trying to pull a Tet offensive, that would be another major contributor to mayhem. So we're talking all manner of mayhem, stuff you couldn't even imagine that could break out. So Chinese have now mandated proper door handles on cars due to fire problems. Well, they need to. So my friends, those cars may be cheap, but their reliability is in the, you know what? It's and they're fire traps. So I've seen videos and pictures of where they burned buildings down in China where they catch each other on fire. Yeah, so all you people in Canada and in Europe who are about to gut your own automotive industries because you're bringing those things in, you better think about it again. You also better think that China uses the money you pay them to fund their military, which eventually wants to dominate the world. They view themselves as they think they're supposed to be the rulers of the world because they got this Middle Earth theory, and according to that, they're the kingdom of the Middle Earth. And this goes back to pre-communist days. The Middle Earth theory was the deities above them, and everybody else below them. So, guys, these are things we got to take into account, especially now that we're potentially facing war with Iran, because a war with Iran would definitely take a lot of our munitions that we may need if we get into a war with China. And so China does not want to lose Iran as a resource because they get oil from Iran, but they would dearly love to see us spend our munitions. So Iran actually has a plan to survive the war. And quite frankly, it may or may not work. Iran is a big country. It's 4 times bigger than Iraq. And we put a lot of forces into Iraq to take over that country. I mean, a lot of boots on the ground. And Iran's terrain is mountainous. It's much harder to negotiate than big flat plains in Iraq and Syria. So it'd be a lot harder for our forces to operate there. Now, some estimates think that, us going in and pulling a Maduro type operation would be more difficult in Iran. Plus, just taking the Ayatollah out wouldn't not in and of itself end the regime. Because what Iran's done is they've set up backup commanders, backup folks to run the government should the main people be taken out. Look how they survived the 12-day war and all this protest. There are other Ayatollahs. If we got Khomeini, there are others that could fill his shoes. It could even be a military dictatorship takeover because the IRGC has got themselves embedded into the economy and they're running a lot of the government and businesses and different things throughout the country. They are embedded in so many ways it's not funny. And unlike in Venezuela, most of them are religious zealots. They believe that this Iman is going to crawl out of the well and he's going to be their savior in bad times. And so a lot of them believe this and they're sticking to it. And they will fight for that, including wiping out them. They don't care about wiping out most of their population if it's a threat to the belief, and that's how they see it. So, they're not looking out after their own people. They're looking out after themselves and whatever kind of belief system it is they're following. And, so Iran is going to be a lot tougher pickle to crack. Some estimates say that, well, we could put 1,000, maybe 10,000 boots on the ground and take out the regime. The only thing we have going for us in Iran is most of the population would like to see that regime gotten rid of. And a lot of them are aggravated to us because, Donald Trump basically encouraged them and said that, he would come in and protect them, and he did not come in at that point in time. So a lot of them are somewhat angry over that. Some would rally around the regime if we went in there and attacked it, but most of the population would not. But they were not capable of decapitating the regime on their own. Why? They had no bang bangs, no nugs. That's the whole thing about nug control, freedom to arm bears. When you lose that, you've lost a lot. And yet, who is it in this country that wants to take that from us today? Look at the governor in Virginia. The Democrats in Virginia ran as moderates, and as soon as they got in office, they start putting in sweeping nug control laws. The same, has just happened up in Canada under Carney. So these are things that we've got to take into account. If we don't have our right to defend ourselves, we're in a big pickle, especially if the Chinese decide to do something. Now, what I would expect if China did anything, like I said, they would wait till most of the people here were pushing daisies and the smoke cleared, and then they would come in. Well, all these sleeper cell agents they got in this country, they could take over the port of Los Angeles, just take it over. And then they could unload all their friendlies who are hiding in these commercial shipping containers and have a huge invasion force. And I went through the numbers on that 2 or 3 years ago and showed just how they could pack them, how they could have everything they needed to survive a trans-Pacific voyage and pack a lot of people and supplies, have the air control, everything they needed in ISO shipping containers, and how they can move a lot of troops on just one ship. And believe you me, they'd probably have several. They might take over several ports and suddenly just be disembarking a huge invasion force if they chose to do that. So they could at least take California, and might run into some resistance. After that, they might even move into South Arizona and where the city is. They'd have a tough time getting up in the northern part because there's people up here who are about ready for anything and everything. But my friends, we're facing some rough times. So we go back to Iran. We're not going to do probably we could not accomplish regime change no matter how much air power does not change regimes. It may weaken them, but air power alone softens the targets and makes it easier for ground troops to move in. But it will still be a tough proposition in Iran, and only could be done by probably, if you're going to do it in such low numbers as 10,000, which is a low number for a regime change operation. You can only do that if it's like special forces with the aid of locals. Now, if they've got that, if they've got some organization to work with the locals, they got a chance. But it's still a roll of the dice, and it's a roll that would get us very tied up in something major and cost a lot of money, a lot of lives, and a lot of our precious ammo that we're short on should we face the Chinese directly. Now, if we took Iran, there are some advantages to that. Like I said, we could really cut off a major source of fuel for China. And that would change the game on that, not to mention reorder the Middle East. Now, this is what Israel wants to see us do. But that does not mean we should do it, because Israel's only looking after Israel. They're not looking for what we got to do and take care of here at home and for our long term, especially as we face China. They're not looking at that. They don't care about that. They only care about their backyard. So, of course, they're going to be rooting for that. So we've got to be more balanced in how we look at what we do as a country. Now, the unfortunate thing is a lot of decisions are probably already made. And how much we can affect that at this point in time remains questionable. You can contact your Congress critters. You can go to freedomrestorationfoundation.org, and I've showed you on there previous videos how to go to the Action Center and go down bottom. It tells you it's got all the information for contacting your state representatives and all your federal Congress critters. Those politicians, politics, many bloodsuckers. That's what they all are. All the politicians. I don't care who they are. They're all bloodsuckers. Some are a little more favorable than others, but they're all bloodsuckers. Pardon me. So now the real risk to us of Iran is that Iran has liked to export their terrorism. They put Hamas in South America, and some of those Hezbollah, excuse me, they put Hezbollah in South America, and some of those Hezbollah guys apparently came across our southern border. And even before our southern border was so wide open, the head of the RGC had bragged that it had sleeper cell agents in America that targeted 20 of our big power substations. So you can bet that there might be some collusion between Iran and China and something like that. And China might decide the timing's great. If we're hitting Iran, or we're so distracted there, it might be the best time for them to move on Taiwan. And this might be how they kind of mitigate their risk of losing their fuel supply. They've got a lot of fuel stores set up right now. They've got quite a bit of petroleum reserves in China. They've been storing food and petroleum and a lot of other things to get ready for a bad time. And so maybe this would all play hand in glove. So we don't know how much mayhem may open, how bad this Pandora's box is going to be when we get into it with Iran. Now, where I was going though is Iran does pose risk because these they're exporting of teism. Let me just call that. I got to watch what it's saying there. Look at what they did with the Houthis. Major missiles to basically a tribal people. They took missiles to a tribal people who launched them against Israel and instigated the first ever space war. Because the conflict of fighting those missiles came in at such a high altitude, and the Israeli interceptors such a high altitude that the intercepts were in space. So the first space war was Israel versus the Houthis. That's mind-boggling. So what? So since Iran has already exported some of their best missiles, it's possible that they would do the same thing with some of their nuclear weapons if they develop them. That's where Iran poses a risk. They only need 2 or 3 to take out Israel. Really 2. 2 would finish Israel. 3 definitely. You know, they hit Haifa, Tel Aviv, and maybe their nuke plant. That's 3. Israel's done. Israel knows that. That's why they're, push as hard as they do to try to thwart Iran getting nuclear weapons. But they're on the verge of developing 9. What are they going to do with the other 6? Are they going to go after their great Satan, as they've always referred to us? So, my friends, they could put one. They've developed the intercontinental ballistic missile. They've launched satellites. If we put a satellite in orbit with a warhead, you can EMP a country. Now, we're facing a lot of threats right here at home that a lot of people just aren't seeing. They aren't getting it. It's why? Because it's so incredible. It's hard to wrap the brain around, and you don't want to believe it. Nobody wants to think about this. Nobody wants to believe it because it's so off the charts. But that's why what can make it the most effective, the fact that it is off the charts. So the best advice to everyone is to prep to the hilt right now. Get ready. Get your affairs in order. Don't waste any time about it. You need to have means to purify and sanitize water. Now, there's 2 separate things. And I did a long video on that, about 7 years ago, maybe 8. It was one of the first prepping videos I did because I thought it was the most important topic to cover. Getting as many views as it should have. I've also got videos on how to survive a nuclear war. There's if you're not at ground zero. Most people aren't going to be, unless you're living in the city, are not going to be in ground zero. So most of you at least live through the initial conflict, but can you survive the whole overall trappings of what happens? So you need to pay attention to these things. You need to look for ways to protect yourselves and your loved ones. Hey, I could between these tables and desks here, I could pile them up with books, water, and food on top of them and shove them into holes in these desks. And I kind of got a radiation shield right here. Um, I could probably survive here a couple of weeks if need to. By then, most of the radiation is gone, except for the nuclear power plants, which will, when those spent fuel rod pools melt down because of lack of water being pumped on them, they'll give radiation for years. So you don't want to be close to any of them downwind from them. So there's a lot of stuff here that is in play. And we just don't know how it's going to play out. And it may not be at all at our call. China could just press a button and everything happens. They might say, now's the go time. And they may send a go signal out. And it's like Tet Offensive here, except Tet Offensive on steroids. And then when you put in these biological labs and consider the kind of research that's going on in Wuhan, it's been alleged they're doing research into genetic. Uh-oh, happened. Uh-oh. My computer must have overheated here. There we are. I lost my screen on my computer for a minute. It went black. All right, I'm still on. Yikes, crazy. This computer is going wonky on me. Don't get a Lenovo Yoga under any circumstances. They're too thin for the power they yield, and they can't cool themselves. Anyway, that's not even actually hot. Why did it do that? It usually would be hot by now. That's odd. Anyway, I've had some chips burned out in it already. One of the memory graphics chips is burned out in it. So, my friends, and I'm glad I'm still 5x5. Good. This whole thing with Iran is a mess. On one hand, we almost need to go in some fashion, but then again, is it worth it? Really? And you consider our biggest threat is not Iran. It may be a threat, indeed, but they're not our biggest threat. Our biggest threat is China. And we really downplay that way too much. Of course, half the country just loves China. And little do they know. We got international so-called partners and allies who are rushing to China right now. Jeez. That's really the odd thing. Think about the Europeans. What they tell us they're afraid of? Russia. They tell us they're afraid of Russia. They tell us that they're all worried about an impending war with Russia, what's going on in Ukraine. But at the same time, they're all willing to run to China and trade with China, who's the financial backer of Russia. Huh? Where does this make any sense? And then again, who accused the leaders in Europe of having any sense? They all got sucked into the House of Klaus. They're so woke they can't see their nose in front of their face. And most of them can't tell you whether they're a man or a woman. Probably. So, my friends, there is something seriously wrong with that picture. They should not be running to the greatest existential threat to humanity that exists, and that's the Chinese Communist Party. That's exactly what a lot of them are trying to do, and Mark Carney in Canada is among them. So, people need to wake up and understand what's really coming, and it's just not getting through to them. They believe their own, they've been telling so much junk on their lamestream news media that they believe their own lies. It's like the brothers of Joseph after they sold him after they sold him to the traders who took him away and then bladed up his robe of many colors and took it home to dad, Abraham, and said, look, he's the tigers or lions or something got him. They told that story so much that when they actually met him in Egypt, they couldn't believe their eyes. It's like, but you got ate up by a lion or whatever, they couldn't believe his lie because they told their lies so much they believed them. And that is a phenomenon that does happen. So, you got these people drinking from the same Kool-Aid all the time and hearing the same stories all the time. Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to bring you guys some truth here. How many more biolabs? We have no idea, Hoppy Hiker. Why in the world did we not find that one way earlier? It belonged to the same guy that had the one in Really. I mean, can't you trace this kind of stuff down? how did that escape our, look at all the data fusion centers. Like there's a giant one south of Salt Lake City. It's supposed to be monitoring everything. You know, they, either they're stupid and they can't really do it. They can't do what they're telling us they can do, or something else is at play, which is even more nefarious. Let's hope it's not the latter. But whatever the case is, when the truth comes to truth, when it all boils down to the most elemental thing, you have to take care of your own self. You have to take care of yourself and your family. That's the most important thing. You and your family. Take care of your family, your friends, and your neighbors to some degree. But you don't tell everybody you're prepping. That can get you in trouble, at least until it all goes down. But the best thing, of course, is your family. Take care of your family. Have things worked out as best as you can. But take care of yourself. You need to consider prepping real seriously. I'm doing it as big as I can here. And I'm trying to make myself as self-sufficient as possible. I'm redoing all my garden stuff here. I hope I get it done before it all comes to a crashing end. So I'm in kind of a race. I just dug all the trenches. Now I got to fill them up with biomaterials. I got to get that going fast. That's what I'm trying to do. So my friends, yeah, I got nugs and I got kibbles to feed my nugs, and I got backup food storage and water purification, and I got some rainwater collection. I need a lot more of that, and different things like that. I plan to up all those games. I just hope I have enough time. But time may be running out. It could all start with this whole thing over Iran. We don't know. We just don't know. Iran could be the biggest, best chess move in the world in controlling China, or it may blow up in our face. We're rolling some dice here. Do we have choices on this? Should America back off? Should we just totally back off of the Orient? Just, take care of the Western Hemisphere alone? Supposing that's our new defense strategy, but, it really looks like that's in words and not in deeds. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And our body language shows that we're arming the heck, sending all kind of arms to Subic Bay right now. Who's that for? China. So, most important, prep indeed. Prep and pay indeed all the sun. Nuggets get thirsty. Yeah, you have some kibbles to feed them nuggets. You probably need to practice. Take your pet nug out for a walk and practice with it. Train your nug. Sit. Roll over. Train that pet nug. Anyway, my friends, seriously, I bring this to your attention because I don't know anybody else is putting it out there quite this way. And it's all interrelated, perhaps. It's just what's in front of us is mind-boggling. But we can always hope and pray, because George Washington had a vision that we would be attacked here in the United States after the United States, became a great nation, the spread of the borders. According to this vision, we got attacked. He apparently had, supposedly, theoretically, had this vision while he was at Valley Forge, and it was an interesting vision. But he saw us getting attacked from countries all around the world. And indeed, looks just like what may be happening, especially since our borders were wide open for so long. Of course, we got people fighting to keep all these people in here. But the main priority we should be going for is sleeper cell agents, even more so than the drug gangs. Yeah, we should go for the drug gangs too, and the people conducting human trafficking. That's heinous as slavery, and yet some people are defending drug dealers and human traffickers. Oh my gosh, how do they do that and justify it? This just blows my mind. State of California under Governor Brown established a California embassy in Moscow that's still operating. Yeah, how they have their own embassy. Maybe we need to kick them out of the union since they want their own embassies. And what about maybe we swap Minnesota for Alberta? That might be a nice swap. People in Alberta and people in Minnesota both might be happy. And then we'd have less blue state votes in this country. So I could definitely go for that. Although I got a good friend in Minnesota, he probably wouldn't like that. But Brian Perendi. Speaking of that, he sent me a care package that I'm gonna open in tonight's video. We'll hit some news articles. in a little bit, and then well, I'm going to open this care package from them, and then we'll do the egg guess. Hold off on the egg guess until I say go on that. But I'm covering the news first for our morning coffee drinkers, people that join us in the morning while they're getting ready to go to work or do whatever weekend activities they'll be doing. There we go. Hey, Bill the Kid, how you doing? And I'll check the chat room later. I'll try to read through it better. I'm going to keep an eyeball and make sure I don't miss any super chats and just catch an occasional comment. But my friends, we are in a tough time because I think if you're right with your maker, you're going to come out better. And I think it's definitely time to pray. But what saved us in George Washington's visions was the angels of God. Seriously. In his vision, that's what saved us. And it may be what it takes. But in the meantime, we got to do everything we can. Now, some people say his vision was manufactured, it wasn't real. Some say it was. Who knows? It wasn't there in Valley Forge with George Washington. At least I don't think it was. There's a little bit of amnesia between lives, right? Anyway, so I don't know. So people have been brainwashed by the socialist, communist, liberals for the past 7 years. Indeed. Cloward and Piven had a special plan for that. And, they wrote it down. And their plan was to go into universities. And it started in universities. And in fact, there's pictures of them standing, a video, in fact, of them standing behind Cloward and Piven, standing behind President Clinton, Bill Clinton, there in the White House Oval Room, in the Oval Office. I kid you not. So, yeah, there's some people of high political office who have gave this a hand. You can't deny that. So that is something we got to watch out for. And I don't know, Bill Clinton's also been one of the big people that's as close to Epstein. And gosh knows what all else, Mr. I did not have sex with that woman. It was my cigar. My cigar did it. But hey, it all depends on what is. But I smoked that cigar. That was one good cigar. Yikes. Anyway, I like to pick on Bill Clinton a little bit every now and then when I get a chance. One thing worries me is that Donald Trump don't seem too interested in really and truly going after the Clintons. The other thing that bothers me is that he just said that Bill was a good guy. Remember, they were friends way back. That kind of stuff bugs me. That kind of stuff kind of sticks in my craw. That he had Billy Goat Gates in the White House, sitting next to Melania on one of their big dinners. And you know who's funding the big ballroom? Billy Goat Gates. And what was he talking about? Developing new things to go. Some things concern me. There may be all manner of deception in this world today. And that's what we got to watch out for. A good book talks about a deception so great that even the elect would be fooled. So you better have your eyes wide open and head on a swivel like never before. Trust no man. But don't put your faith in human flesh. You better be seeking the higher powers. All that said, we're going to go into some of the news articles here real quick, which just mainly reinforces what I'm talking about here. But, guys, these are things I've been talking about for years. And they're just all beginning to come to a head. I'd really hoped that we wouldn't be seeing this, especially this soon. But things do not look good for 2026. This year is nuts. So, indoctrination of children now. Oh, yeah. Yes. Can you believe that? That would have been considered contributing to the delinquency of minors and been considered a criminal offense just a few years ago. Now it's just considered normal. Why are we having so much problems today? And with our youth, we took God out of the schools. We took God out of their lives. Took the Ten Commandments out. That can't be good. The worst thing is we broke the nuclear family in this country. That's probably the worst thing of all, breaking the nuclear family. So faith, hope, and charity. Yes, happy hiker. My friends, and like I said, you need to talk to your friends and neighbors and see if you can bring some of them around. See if you can get them out of their hypnotic spell. Anyway, let's go in and look at some things here. I'm going to do a share screen. I got to pull up the screen. Oh, before I go into all this other stuff about news articles, I do have an announcement. And I hope it's a good announcement because I promised you guys, I've been promising you guys for weeks now, actually months, that I was going to come up with another way to get out of the system of supporting the powers that be. The worst thing we can do is, when you buy something, every dollar you spend is a vote for whatever you spend it on. And it just so happens that, when we buy products in stores, there used to be, umpteen dozen different companies that would provide those products. And the original companies were often good companies that cared about their products and tried to sell things that were good, wholesome, and safe. The problem is most of those companies got absorbed by mergers. Today, 12 corporations control almost everything you're buying when you go to the big box stores, when you go to Wally World. 12 corporations are supplying all this stuff, and they don't care what's in it. These corporations have decided that it's cheaper to pay settlements and pay off lawsuits than it is to make good product. So they, for the purpose of being cheap, they put all kind of nasty chemicals in their stuff. Some give it more shelf life, some give it color, texture, or make it more alluring, make you want to eat it. But it's these things are horrible for you. Some are downright horrible. A lot of these chemicals that are in our everyday products are outlawed. They're banned in Europe, but yet they're wide open okay here in the United States. Now, food does get monitored to some degree, but probably the worst products are your skincare products, your hair care, these products you buy every day. You buy lots of them every month, and they're full of poison, basically. And I've been saying I'm working on something where we can get out of that stuff because these 12 corporations are all members of the House of Klaus, which is the Economic Forum of the World. I'm twisting that around a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. And they've been part of this globalist gulag that want to suck us into the proposition that you'll have no privacy, you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Yeah. And they love China. How do we know that? Well, Klaus Schlauber himself said so, as did one of his forebears, David Rockefeller. Oh yeah, they extolled on China. Maybe they had some kind of deal with China, insider deal. They took over that those guys would be taken care of in some fashion. You got to wonder. You really got to wonder what's playing behind the scenes. Or maybe the forces of darkness are just so that they maybe these people around in such ways they don't even know what game they're playing. So these are all things to think about, my friends. But that's just why I decided, heck, why support those who are against us? Why support those who don't serve us? Why support those who would put all this junk in our food and our products that we use on a daily basis? Well, I've got a solution to that now. I have got a solution. You can get away from that now. Let me hit a screen share. Now I'll do the screen share. Ding, 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 ding. And here it is. I've got a website set up just for this. And it is switchwithgreg.com. Switchwithgreg.com. And the whole purpose of this is to switch away from the big box stores and the 12 corporations that are selling you all this junk, all the toxic stuff. This is a family-owned company in the United States, all American, family-owned company. What they bring, it's non-toxic. They don't have all the chemicals in their stuff, all the stuff that would be disallowed in Europe. It's not in them. This is who you're buying from now. You think you're getting from all these companies, but it turns out it's just 12 that controls all these today. You're thinking all these products. Some of these products started out as really good products, but once they got bought Oh yeah, they're in the club now. They all put that junk in there. Your consumer goods. Yeah, you think you got choice. What's your choice? It's the Big 12. And who these Big 12 belong to? They all play in the House of Klaus. They're all globalist elites. So, my friends, you might want to think about that. All these lawsuits that's been going on related to these products here. I'll show some of that down here. So now you got a choice. You got a choice where you can get away from all these companies and support a family-owned business here in the United States and support products, take products that are non-toxic. So you get a twofer here. Non-toxic, good, clean products, and they're made in America and they're chemical free. Well, that's not a threefer, not a twofer. So all you got to do is go to switchwithgreg.com and you go in here and fill this out and hit submit form. And my good friend and associate Lisa will call you after you submit that form and explain this to you and what it is and what you can get. And she will walk you through it and onboard you. So, and she's real friendly. So, this is what I encourage you to do. This gets you away from all that junk. Switchwithgreg.com. And I'll put a link below this video after I post it. So let's go back to the war. Back to war news. The U.S. versus them. It's us versus them. There we go. Well, this is the way to get it back in the hands of families and back away from the Big 12. Yikes. So Iran does have a strategy to win against us, and it is, probably it might work. It might work. And, the first stage is, revolves around the country's response to U.S. initial strikes, which, they would counterstrike against our bases in the Middle East, our carriers. That's what they would do for their initial strike. The second stage is regional retaliation. They would strike out against U.S. bases in Qatar, Kuwait, and Syria, and against Israel itself. The third stage is cyber warfare. Iran is planning to target U.S. transportation, energy grids, and financial systems. The hacking, probably sleeper cell agents on top of that. That's what this article isn't saying. But if they're going to do the cyber attacks, that might be their go word on going for our critical infrastructure, to include kinetic attacks on substations like we had seen in the Metcalf station. This article don't tell you that, but I will, because that's an angle that I've been acutely aware of for a long time. And the fifth stage is that, they believe the United States will not want to fight a long war, that we would quit, that we would give out after some point, and then they would survive. And to them, surviving is victory. So that's the bottom line. They think that they will just tire us out. And it could happen. In the meantime, we could waste a lot of our stuff that we need to use against China. And now the Jerusalem Post, and what I tell you about earlier, I warned you guys that Israel really wants us in this. Burn the kitchen down, they said. Transformational Trump must strike at Iran now. See what they're saying? We got to do it. We got to do it now. And like I said, there's arguments for that. But in the broader picture, when we're dealing in China, I just have to ask the question, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? There's a lot of risk in this. Like I said, we could deprive China of their fuel, take the wind out of the Chinese military cells, because they got to have fuel to run those warships. They do not have a nuclear navy. Although I think they're trying to develop a nuclear carrier right now, but by and large, they do not have a nuclear navy. And Elliot Abrams, who wrote in Foreign Affairs, he's real friendly to Israel. You might remember Elliot Abrams. He said, the United States now has a chance to keep Iran and its allies off balance, because the only true solution to the problem of the Islamic Republic is its demise. The United States and its allies should mount a pressure campaign on behalf of the Iranian people who wish for the regime's end more fervently than any foreigner. There is truth in that, but is that truth enough to rise to the occasion for us to attack Iran? I don't know. You tell me what y'all think. Y'all respond. What do y'all think we should do? Should we back away, or should we go in? I mean, if we just hit them lightly, it's not going to take the regime out. unless somebody's got a brilliant plan. And if we're relying on Palantir's intelligence to help us, good Lord, it couldn't find the bio lab in Nevada and Vegas. So how in the world can we really count on that? That's really, when knowing that bio lab survived really brings to me question about our capabilities. Um, anyway, Iran regime change would cost boots on the ground. And China war readiness, well, would lose China war readiness. That's what it would cost us. That, yeah, cost boots on the ground and cost us Chinese war readiness. This is some of what I was talking about with that. Uh, and then there's articles Trump likely to attack Iran soon, and maybe even target Khomeini, excuse me, Khomeini is what he pronounced his name. The case sound Khomeini, just like this. Well, they don't need to attack him. I got him right here. He's in my custody. See, I got Hominy right here. He's rather bent and out of shape, see? But I got your Hominy. Anyway, my friends, this is a we are quite likely to strike them. What will it mean to us? What's going to happen when we do? I don't know, but the risks are off the charts. And the risk of doing nothing may be off the charts too. But, I do think that our biggest threat by far is China, not Iran. That may not be as true for Israel, who really wants us to go in there. Talks with the U.S. set to continue after a good beginning, Iran's foreign minister says. Well, Iran just wants to keep kicking the can down the road. They like to keep the discussions going with the thought that we might not attack while we're talking, buying them time to get their stuff better in place. And we may not attack until we get all our aircraft carriers in place because apparently the George H.W. Bush is going to be on the way there too. So that might be weeks away. So it's not like we're going to attack them tomorrow morning. Probably not. But I am not going to say that absolutely won't happen. Anyway, U.S. bites back after Iran refuses to budge on nuclear enrichment during diplomatic talks. Basically, the talks they had were just talks to, or it was negotiations to negotiate. It's like in the old Dilbert cartoon when they were having a meeting to plan having a meeting. That's about what it boils down to. That was back in the days of the Dilbert cartoon. That was funny. But in this case, it's not so funny. But they're negotiating what they will actually talk about when they do have a negotiation. And Iran right now does not want nuclear enrichment or protecting their people, not firing upon their own people, to be on the agenda. And that's something the Trump administration is pushing. So it looks like we don't have anything that's really going to come to coherence there that's going to match the prospects of the United States and Iran matching. It's just not good. Even Rubio says, not sure you can reach a deal with these guys. He's talking about Iran and this nuclear talks. Reportedly hit snag. Yeah, they've hit a snag. And the funny thing is, why would it be a snag if we'd wiped out all their nuclear stuff like Donald Trump said we did back in June of last year when the B-2s bombed them? Oh, we wiped it all out. It's all gone. But then again, we're negotiating this stuff, right? Why? Well, the centrifuges survived. I know that. I'll explain it to you. I ain't never heard anybody else anywhere in the news media explain that. I did. And that's how I knew that didn't happen, is those centrifuges were loaded with uranium hexafluoride. Uranium hexafluoride is extremely toxic, just the fluoride plus uranium, and it's a gas. Had those centrifuges been blown up, that stuff would have been injected out those crater holes and contaminated Fordo and those other sites and tremendously. Yet there were crews running around out there without any hazmat suits on, stringing up little plastic orange fences around the holes and different things like that. And out there running earth moving equipment like the day after. That, and of course, they had all those trucks there prior to that I've shown you in satellite pictures of. So no, that stuff wasn't there. They cleared that stuff out in advance. So, uh, oh, thank you, Bill Clinton, traitor in chief. Yeah, I did not have sex with that woman. It was my cigar. Anyway, yikes. Uh, Anywho, let's move on. Nobody, I have not heard anybody anywhere in any media explain that. And the Trump administration came down all hard on media sources that said, well, we don't think they got it all. But they didn't have anything to back up their claims with, but I did. I put it out there. And nobody's picked it up or repeated it that I've heard. Have y'all heard that anywhere else? This is why you come to Green Greg's. I'm an engineer. I can do analysis. Somebody made a comment after my last video. So all you do is talk, but you don't say anything. Of course, the name of that user was Death is Good. Something wrong there. Something wrong. There's probably a 50-cent Army Chinese bot throwing a comment out. It's like, really? Interesting. The main thing I tell you is to get ready, to be prepared. And if you don't know how to do it, I got videos on that too. Surprise strikes loom if U.S. Iran talks collapse. Iran wants to kind of keep them going as long as they can, but at some point, we're not going to get what we're looking for out of them. I don't see it. They don't want to do it, and they think they can wait us out. They think they can win, maybe by triggering all their sleeper cells and hacking, cyber attacks, or maybe working in concert with China. They may have a deal with China. Okay, if it gets this bad, they're going on Taiwan, and as we're over there, all wrapped up with Iran. And they may hit our bases in Guam and other bases out there. So, my friends, these are things to look at. So here it says another aircraft carrier, the USS George H.W. Bush, is expected to deploy in the coming months. Well, I'm hearing maybe a couple weeks, but it's not at sea right now. At least not. This says it was out in the Atlantic doing some qualification missions. But if you look at Fleet Tracker, the George H.W. Bush don't even show up. What does that mean? It's not even on Fleet Tracker. Of course, maybe they got it running and with where we don't know it. It may be well on the way. I mean, the United States don't want to show, if you're going to do a war, you don't show all your cards, right? Who knows? Maybe somebody in here is over there where the George H.W. Bush is based, and maybe you was driving to work and saw it yesterday morning or this morning. I don't know. So maybe you can tell me that if you happen to know it's still in port or nearby. Um, but Iran, they tried to seize a U.S. oil tanker, and one of our naval ships, I think a destroyer or something, pulled up, and run all the gunboats off. But they have since seized a couple more, and one of the things they're threatening to do is close the Strait of Hormuz, which has shut down a whole lot of the world's energy supplies and most likely spike the price of oil. And apparently they're planning to go ahead with these mass mayhem that we've been talking about against their own people after the talks end, according to some lawyer here. And that could well happen. That wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I would expect it. Uh, and in other news, for how well we've done with some of our previous adventures, Al Qaeda is now 50 times larger than it was on September the 11th in 2001. New intelligence suggests 25,000 fighters could be plotting attacks against the West. And maybe they would do it in concert when the Hezbollah sleeper cells here in the United States get activated. Should that come to pass, let's hope it don't. And who knows, the Chinese and Hezbollah and all of them may activate at the same time, and Al Qaeda and drug cartels. They could wreak mayhem, not to mention various protesters that are already in the streets. China building 1,000 warheads by 2030. Supposes the U.S. We've supposedly exposed their illegal nuclear tests. It's been claimed they've tested several nuclear devices at once. My friends, when the late great Dr. Peter Vincent Pry was alive, I interviewed him several times, and we were looking at all these big missile fields that China was setting up. They could put 300 of their missiles in these fields, and these missiles were capable of carrying 10 warheads apiece. So and Peter Pry was estimated or said to be one of the world's top weapon systems experts. And so, my friends, we got to take it seriously. We figure that China really has a lot more than we know about, a lot more than our State Department wants to admit, because our State Department just kind of assumed they built 300 and quit building them for some time. But they had all the plants, all the facilities to build them that were still in operation. So you think China just quit building them? We're not over there inspecting. We don't have the visibility because we didn't have the nuclear trees with China that we had in Russia. So we didn't have inspectors over there looking at that stuff. We don't know what China has. We got no clue. All we know is believing what they tell us. And when has a communist ever been honest, especially when their theory is Sun Tzu? They're not going to tell you what they're going to do to you, how they're going to come after you. Anyway, yeah, secret nuke testing. So now we're calling for broader arms control treaty. Well, now there's no arms control treaties in effect at all. But part of the reason is that we've got to figure out how to pull China into it. But China says they don't want to be part of it. They don't want to be part. They think the United States and Russia should come up with some mutual balance. The problem is that China and Russia are kind of linked at the hip in this area. So we should consider whatever the weapons they had to be times two. That China and Russia would be together. So together they got more than us, which means they could overwhelm us with a first strike and take out our nuclear forces and then hold us by nuclear blackmail or fry the heck out of us. So, and then again, red flags over Chinese communist academics in U.S. colleges and universities developing some of our advanced technologies. Yes, a lot of our advanced technologies is developed in the universities, to include defense technologies. Our top electronics, our top computers, AI systems are being developed in universities. And a lot of the leads in a lot of those university departments turns out, are members of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, how smart is that? Of course, by law, they have to report back when asked by Chinese intelligence. I've showed you that law in the past too. Just how smart is that? Not very smart at all. What we've allowed to happen with our nation here, how we've allowed ourselves to be infiltrated. No, we have never been infiltrated like this before in any war. And to change the subject a little bit, NATO's run a war game and Russia won it. In the war game, Russia just ran over NATO. Of course, hello, Europeans. China's funding Russia. Wake up. Wake up and smell the coffee, my friends. Uh-oh. I'm not going to get to see this article right now. It was up earlier. Oh, well. I hate that when I got an article pulled up and you can read it, and when I come back to show it to you, it does that to me. Let's just kill it. So, I just lost a couple articles there. We'll change the topic one more time here. Other things to be concerned about. Jellystone National Park, Yogi Bear and all. Turns out the volcanic scientist has been telling us it would be hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years it would take for the magma chamber to erupt, and we would know it clearly ahead of time. Now their latest intel and the science on it, once they really are digging into it, now they've said, oh my gosh, it could go off in decades, just decades. It's only overdue by 400,000 years if you just look at the average. On average, the place has erupted every 600,000 years. It's been 640,000 years since the last eruption. It could be another 40, 100,000 years before it goes, or maybe 20 years from now. So just something else to stay alert about. Not only that, there's 20 supervolcanoes around the world, and there's a new one brewing in the Pacific Ocean. So, guys, we need to be prepping. Talking about Earth stuff, here's earthquakes. The Puerto Ricans are always dancing real hard down here. You gotta give them enthusiasm and all that. Earthquake, that's just the Puerto Ricans dancing. That's all that is. The Kamchatka Peninsula has got earthquakes. Their big submarine base got wiped out there. No biggies today. The biggest one looks like this one right here, 5.9 in Indonesia. Usually you see a bunch of them all through here. Big ones. Japan has got a couple. That one's a 4.7. And we got a 4.5 there. And Puerto Rico is just dancing. Space weather. We're going to space weather here. And that big sunspot, 4366, is still facing us, but it's beginning to roll away. It threw its worst storms when it was over the left side, but it has shot out seven X-class flares. No, six X-class flares in the past week. So we got an 80% chance of M-class flare, and there's still chances that we could get an X-class flare out, and good Lord only knows how strong it could be. Uh, sometimes sunspots like this will survive and even grow more when they get on the other side of the sun and come back around again. Let's hope this one dissipates. Let's hope it dissipates before it rolls back around, because she's a big, ugly beast. And she's been real active. The sun has been really hyperactive on this cycle. And yet I still hear people say in various chat things, oh, we're in a grand solar minimum. Not right now, we're not. It looked like we were headed for one. Now, what I tell you about asteroids, we always find the close approaches after the fact. On 4 February, and I believe I was doing a podcast, the 5th of February, and this wasn't even on the charts. But on the 4th of February, one was 3/10 of the way on our side between us and the moon, just outside our geosynchronous satellites, 0.3 lunar distances away. It was only 7 meters in size, though. Velocity is 7.7 kilometers per second. Maybe it's a spent rocket stage. But there's no, as usually typical, we don't see anything that we know of all the way out to 6 April that's a threat to us. There's nothing we know of that's a threat to us. Usually these that we discover after the fact are smaller ones. We found a lot of the bigger ones. There's some that we've not found, but we believe we know all the ones that could end the world. We believe we know about all the ones that could really destroy a continent. But the city killers, there's still a lot of those we haven't found, probably thousands of them. And who knows, one of those could trigger a nuclear war. Okay, that's the news for all our coffee club members. It took me how long to get through the news here? It took me, how long have we been online here? 71 minutes. Yeah, it was wild to get through the news. So I can go through the chat here real quick, and we're going to open the box of Brian Perendi, and then we'll do the egg guess. That's our little ending game that we like to do now. So let me check what people are saying in the chat room. Try to catch some of the comments. It's late. I don't know if I'll go through all of them, but what in the world happened here? Anyway, so did anyone see the huge sunbow today? Yeah, I saw a picture when you posted on Facebook New Days. She posted one that was, we call them sun dogs too. It went all the way around the sun. When I was in Alaska, that was very common. And you'd often see that and then see what looked like the NATO star. You'd see a 4-pointed star and the sunbow, and sometimes another ring outside that. It's the ice crystals in the atmosphere refracting the light, and you get those. And you're up north where it's really cold. So I've actually seen that one time here in Alabama, just once. That's the only recollection I've got in Alabama. But it was pretty common. It was almost what you'd always see in Alaska in the wintertime. You'd see those sunbows, sun dogs, whatever you want to call them. So, yeah, those are pretty impressive. There's no way around that. Very impressive. It's sad to me that we don't have a military mind as commander-in-chief. Yeah, a lot of commanders-in-chiefs think they have a military mind. I think he went to some kind of a little academy back in school. But still, that don't mean you are trained in military. And he does get briefings. Let's hope he's getting good information. I do like Exif, but we got a lot to consider here. And a lot of what Trump does is just, he drew a red line and Iran crossed it. And so now he feels obligated to act on it. Is that, if he don't, he loses his reputation, his credibility. When the commander-in-chief loses his credibility, they're losing face in the world. And that can lead to political blowback in a lot of ways and encourage bad people to do more bad things. But at the same time, that could drag us into things that we don't need to be part of. My preference would be that we didn't have all those bases in the Mid East to start with. We got like 50,000 troops over there, and I've heard recently that over 60,000. So maybe we pull some out, but I think we're putting more in now. There's been a lot of flights going over there. Last I heard, like 30 C-17s, big cargo planes going in and out, delivering a lot of stuff. We've delivered a lot of Patriot missiles, maybe some THAAD missiles. So supposedly, we've got a deal to protect the other countries in the Mid East, and we got to make them happy before we move on. Iran, we got to show them we're there to defend them in case Iran retaliates against them. So we're building up our assets. We're building up our resources. It's not a sundog, Greg. It's Planet X. That's Nibiru swinging around the sun like it's been doing for 30 years. For 30 years, I've been reading on the internet. There it is. It's swinging around the sun. It's about to hit Earth any minute now, any second. I don't know. People would yup that stuff up for decades. And every time they say, oh, yeah, there it is. And they keep forgetting. How many times are you going to believe the boy calling wolf? So electronic warfare stuff, there's going to be a lot of that coming at us. But now that's sundog or sunbow, whatever you want to call it. That's a natural phenomenon. It's a natural phenomenon. Zen Jamming, man, he's always first in the house when he comes in. How you doing, Zen Jamming? Tim Casper, all the sun. Hey, she's all the sun. I'm all his own. Alice Sun. However you want to split it. So lots going on. That's right, Mr. Durham or Dunham. Mr. Dunham, yes, we got lots going on. No kidding. Hey, Arnold, sixes are checking them. KP Heathen, Pilgrim. And JKIT3BW. JK, it 3BW. I'm trying to see if we can make a word out of that, but I guess not. Mr. T and Dr. P. Someone tried to order 150 nuke shelters from the Mid East. Wow. Actually, if you had a nuke shelter, you'd probably be ahead of the game. A new flock safety camera was installed a couple of miles away from the home. Oh, and went traffic stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be fond of that either. Then we need to worry about our own people knocking us off. Well, it looks like a lot of them may be colluding with the external forces. We got, enemies, foreign and domestic, apparently right now. Yeah, Airbnb, you're right, Justin Kaiser. Julie Fall, yes, thank you. New Days. And Garrity Amanda. And what Mike Percy said, yeah, the big T word. The T word that rhymes with reason. Yeah, I think there's some of that going on somewhere in our upper echelons. If they allowed it to happen, Chinese embedded with most politics. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that. A lot of our politicians were getting some money on the table. J-35 Chinese built fighter can only call 15 minutes at supersonic speed. Well, that's good for us. Lots have these smooth door handles, but they malfunction. It may look sleek until you need it. Looks and everything, my friends. Functionality rules. But most people get sucked in by the look. Oh, look, it looks cool. It looks so nice. Let's see. You would think that we would take out North Korean satellite that goes, yes. That North Korean satellite might have something on board that we don't want to know about. Actually, we should know, but we don't. All this rest of the Chinese cars is sucky build quality. Yeah, there's that too. Data harvesting. Yeah, most of your stuff in China is quality is kind of messed up. Chinese pot farms in the state of Maine. Hey, that's what New Days has been telling about some others. They're all over the country, operating without license. Yeah, and they also put chemicals on those crops. And so a lot of you that are 420 friendly, if you don't know where that stuff's coming from, you might be getting some stuff that's really bad. As long as Mark, this is coming from a Canadian, as long as Mark Carney is PM of Canada, DJT will have to consider the takeover of eastern provinces in Canada. The western provinces are fed up with being treated like peasants. There you go. There you go. Remember the Beltway sniper? I do. There was Scud missiles found in the woods near I-270 while the feds were searching for the sniper. Whoa. Yeah, there's all kind of stuff that we don't normally hear about now. New Days was involved with a lot of law enforcement back in the day. She's got some inside stories that make your hair curl. We're talking about Israel. It's part of what we talked about here. How they'd love nothing better than have us go, full attack on Iran right now. I just showed an article. They want us to hit them and hit them now. Hit them hard. Are we really ready for that? 14 hours is all it takes for the United States military to seize 90% of Canada. Lordy, Lordy. You only got 35 million people in Canada, and not much of a defense force, a lot of area. Then hearing about February 8th, one of those emails was talking about World War III starting then. Mike, tell us more. Where did you get that? Mark resists ill. Tiffany Hartman, how you doing? Vampires, yeah. Politics, many ticks, many bloodsuckers. Yeah, they're vampires. They live off of us, which needs to be removed by the Marines to expel the fraudulent activities. Interesting. Advanced Power. What is that? Low altitude drone carriers, 1,200 to 2,500 drones on each carrier, depending on the size of the drones. Do not operate on the frequencies that we're accustomed to. Yeah, China's got a very large drone that's a carrier of drones. Big Dog. Howdy, Big Dog. Good morning, young man, you say. Hey, I'll be 66 before too long. Pakistan has nukes and is very similar to Iran. True. True. And Al-Qaeda Khan was the father of the Pakistani nuke. And he was outsourcing his technology to North Korea and to Libya and others. One shipping container can hold how many unmanned tanks and run on solar panels that China's developed? That's something to be worried about. DJT won't move on Iran until he knows America's safely out of the Arctic vortex. New moon phase. Yeah, you don't want a full moon when you attack, because our forces do best under complete darkness, because our forces have all the night vision equipment. Lots of containers in Panama ports from here. Yes. China has, I've seen pictures of them with a container ship that had, they opened up the tops of these containers and had a lot of missile tubes. So that's just like a destroyer and a cargo ship. Boy, so total war in China, is combining civilian and military assets. So it's not just their military assets, and they have a huge fishing fleet, which acts as Coast Guard ships off Philippines. Oh yeah, and they just had a flotilla fishing ships surround Taiwan as if to form a blockade. A dry run, perhaps. China's listening to you, Greg. Their chips are in your computer. I know it. The heck with them. Lenovo. I actually bought an HP laptop and had no issues. Yeah. I don't stream either. Yeah, this Lenovo is IBM. Our own politicians, some Mark. No, we don't trust none of them. Anyone remember the feds rejecting a load of laptops about 15 years ago due to dual-use chips? Spied on you? That could be. DJT is a concern with Cuba right now. Optics is one thing, but there's too much damage to old infrastructure there to invest time and money while his main focus is Iran. He wants to see Cuba fall, but he's hoping they'll fall because they're being starved of petroleum. Could happen. North Korea's EMP satellite should be a major priority. Yes. And I've talked about that satellite from way back. That satellite first orbited Washington, D.C. on the same day that the Metcalf station attack occurred. And at the same time, North Korea had the Chongchang tramps utility ship, we call it tramp center, it wasn't a steamboat though, running around in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico with two complete fully erect missiles in shipping containers. So what were they practicing for on the 16th of April in 2013? Nuggets get Thursday. That's right, all the sun. 10 years ago, they out your name in the system, and it was Spidergram, everything connected to you, everything you contacted, what business you're on, properties, etc. Yeah, maybe that's why I've had some challenges. Maybe that's why I don't get many views here on YouTube. What made we have too many rogue elements to operate? Yes, here in the United States. Very true, JK. State of California under Governor Brown. Oh, yeah, that's when they started the embassy. It was under Governor Moonbeam. He married Lyndon Ronstadt. It's so easy to fall in love. Now she fall in love with a real turkey. The politicians have to sold us out. They have, Billy. Most of them have. Late to the game and have it rewound. What is the name of Dave Hodges' channel? His channel is Common Sense Show, I think. Yeah, sometimes he puts out some strange stuff, but I think he was right on that one. Iranian bunkers are deeper than once believed. Oh, yeah, they got some real deep ones. They have some real deep ones. So, Paul and Nitz. Hey, then, Paul and Nitz. I was on a panel last night and asked everyone, when are we going to say no? These are people that do not represent you. There you go. Don't have our morals and principles. And you're right about the indoctrination. New Days. New Days has been a busy mod tonight. Why is taxpayer money going to non-factual companies that don't even exist when where is accountability for so-called public service servants? That is a real big true problem, and it's especially bad in blue states, like where they have their famous Leering centers, to teach scads of students that never attend, but they bill you for them. You got the same kind of thing going on in California, especially with hospice care. Billions and billions of dollars going back overseas and going into pockets of a lot of our politicians right here. Nabisco is owned by Mondelez International out of Mexico. Wow. He's using Iran like a negotiating tactic. God's will be done, and nothing is going to stop the time of the Almighty. That's what Arnold Smith is telling us. If the weather patterns, he might be Paul, it's, you got to look at his son-in-law. Who's his son-in-law? The Blue Road Party attacking us from within. Walty's gone to the crapper, yes. Owned by BB. Some of them may be. Some by him, some by China, Soros, globalist. That's why I live living 2 miles from Canada. You buy your groceries, non-toxic food. There you go. These American companies are just throwing crap at us. Really, literally. You maybe the food's better than some of the skin care, hair care, toothpaste products. But my friends, my goodness. Oh yeah, they got great coffee. And they got some health aids too, and supplements and things. Everything is escalating way beyond our abilities to absorb info. Yeah, that's true, Arnold. There's so much going on. I could stay, if I had the time, I could be online all day long, every day, and then only get a portion of it. Yes, Little Rock smuggling. That's how Billy Clinton, that's what he was put in power for. Dan Rostenkowski and Hugh Rodham were in collaboration, according to some sources. And Hugh Rodham was Hillary's dad, and supposedly they put Bill and they worked to get Bill in the governor's seat so they could run their junk through Arkansas. They've already rebuilt them. They are rebuilding from the last strike tactical, Matt Foley. They are busy rebuilding as fast as they can. Went from a world trade agreement, which created a trade imbalance as a rider of the North American trade union. Every time they pass a funding bill, a bunch of pork spending. Yep, his sled. Yes, the sled and his riders. True. NAFTA caused the trade imbalances because it led to offshore. Amen. Hey, that's one thing H. Ross Perot got right. He talked about that great sucking sound south of the border, and they all made fun of him and laughed at him, but he was right. There you go. Indeed, J.K. on Ross Perot now. Yes, he knew. He warned everybody, and nobody wanted to listen and made fun of him. We can scan the room for possible enemy in the crowd, but what we can't understand is that Lucifer is everyone's enemy. True. And you got to wonder, Arnold, a lot of these people that are collaborating may be doing it without even knowing it, because maybe they all got puppet strings from Lucifer. Maybe they don't even know what they're pulling on us. A lot of people that know they're serving him think that he's going to do all this great, wonderful stuff from them and then, but Lucifer hates everyone. Maybe we won the space. You'll know when they want you to. Communist Manifesto. Yeah, supposedly Trump, just remember that Trump's going to come out with a big announcement about UFOs in June or July. Why's he got to wait till then? What's that timing? Why the timing? What are they really up to? Hey, anything they come out with on that topic, don't just buy it wholesale. I don't care who comes out with it. There's a lot of fishy stuff going on with that. Greg, WTF is the FBI doing, not following the money on this California lab guy. You would think. I mean, he's been arrested, and yet a lab, house he owns is in Vegas, got a drug lab. What else does he own anywhere else, and who else? I mean, he can't be the only one. Yikes. Pelosi, Schumer, Natter, paid away. Yes. And what was her name? Senator, female senator from California that had Xi Jinping's predecessor over Zhang, oh, what was it? How do you say that guy's name? Zhang Jiaoping or something, I forget. Anyway. You have something to which I have no idea about. Can you explain a bit? Oh, he's talking to somebody else there. Okay. Agree. I pay enough taxes just by actively going to my daily business. Why do they invade? Yeah, well, this land, America is like no other place in the world. We've got a huge heartland that can grow all kind of food, and we got a huge river system, and it's a good navigable rivers all out throughout the interior of the United States, and nobody else has got anything that compares. Hey, thank you, Jason Smith, for asking for the thumbs up. Whoop, I jumped to the bottom somewhere. Let's see, jump way down. And maybe I do need to skip ahead a little bit. All right. Oh, some dogs. Yeah, you see them in Alberta. I bet you see them. The farther you are north, and more of them you're going to see. My egg's going to cause a crust to slip. Yeah, laughing out loud. Not. If you follow that 100, probably 10,000 times bigger channel than mine that talks that stuff every day, then God help you. That's nonsense. And I've shown in the previous video way back how nonsensical that is. China could have given NK a super. Oh yeah, well that's Jason. When the wall fell, what was his name? Graham had been a director of NASA. He's also a Soviet weapons expert. What's his first name? Last name is Graham. Got brain lock right now. Yeah, he talked to some of the generals in Russia, and they said right out, they said that Russia, China, and North Korea had EMP super weapons. Land Worker Garden of Soul. Hey, that's a good name. Goodbye from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Well, thank you for being here. Oh, Hillbilly. Good to see you, Hillbilly. Chinese version of the Pentagon. Yeah, they're building their own version is 10 times bigger than ours. Plus, they're building a big spy station in the old Mint building in London, thanks to Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Mark Carney are two peas in the pod. And the third pea in the pod is the French president, Macaroni. Macron, how you say it? Macaroni. Oh, yeah, Doug. I need to interview Doug. He's good at coming up with mitigations for things like I need to do an interview with him about what to do if you get the NEPA. Were you in the service? Yes, I was in the Army. My last duty station was Fort Greely, Alaska. Before that, I was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Yes, been saying China's the threat Ms. Constitutional rights. Randy Anthony. Oh, my. Satellite just died on me. Barely went out. How dim am I here? Governor Moonbeam oversees a doomsday clock? Oh, Lord. He's no scientist. Yeah, okay, Samuel. See, I better not be saying that word. Did I say it? There's a lot of censored words. Problem is they censor so much you can't even know what all was censored. KLW worked for Ross Perot, did he? Well, all right. Samuel, is that verified about Ross being on the list? That's how it happened. Elite. Purposely. Havana syndrome dies today. Let's hope there's no more Havana syndrome, but I know somebody that seems to be suffering from something like that. So how does it make him Ross Perot was not or is not on Epstein list. Well, Ross Perot is no longer with us. All right, we got somebody saying he was and somebody saying he wasn't. He's been gone for a long time. Riverway Avenue. How you doing, Riverway Avenue? Thank you for the thumbs up. All right, guys, we've been in here for a while. I hope y'all got enough light to see me by right now because my main light just went kaput. Let me throw on another light. Give me a second while I find the switch to it. Boom. Oh, yeah, I've heard of Ashton Forbes, of course. Yeah, I know what he's got. Yeah, I know what he talks about. Yes, I've definitely heard of Ashton Forbes. Watch my Galactic Graves channel. I talk about technologies like that. I was talking about that before Ashton Forbes was. That my most popular videos are where I talk about programs that develop technologies like that. I know he got in trouble going up Coral Reef, so he parked his yacht. Hey, Ross Perot. Well, thank you, Azers. Now I'm gonna open the box from Brian Perendi. And the cool thing about that, and I hope he'll watch it in the morning. He told me it was too late to catch him in here. So but he watches the videos in the morning. He likes to send me care packages, and then Brian Perendi, he's up in Minnesota. He's got a good sense of humor. So there's bound to be some stuff in here to make you laugh. He's got a sense of humor. So he sent me this big box. It's Simplot, whatever that is. Seasoned crisp. Sour cream and chive steam, 10-cut wedge. What? Frozen taters. That's what it says on the box here. Frozen taters. Oh my gosh. What did Brian Perendi send us? And the great filter. Oh, yeah. I'll talk about the great filter. We may be about to hit it. I hope not. We may be. Fermi paradox. And I also come up with my own Fermi paradox theory called the dark fortress, which is similar to the dark forest, but more detailed. So, yeah, you got to watch my Galactic Greg's channel. All right, we got her cut up. Let's see what's in here. There's always a card at the front. There's always a card, and the card is usually one of the more humorous things. So, you sent me a card. Got a dog with a big smile. Somebody's holding the dog's mouth open. That's about Brian Speed. Simplot is a potato factory in Grand Forks, North Dakota, 35 miles north of Fargo. Cool. Hi, Greg. Just some snacks. Kathy, I guess his sister, says, always okay to do something kind. Hope you enjoy. Courtesy of nature's refrigeration. Brian. Well, that's a cool card, right? All right, let's see what's in here. Somebody sent me coffee. It didn't say on it who it came from. I'm Chewy Weather used to send me a lot of coffee, so I assume it might be from Chewy Weather. He's probably busy doing well. Oh, there's some cool stuff in here. We got some cardboard packing. I can throw that in my garden. And oh, one of my favorites right here. Ritz crackers. Ritz crackers. And we got a lot of cheese and meats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What's that? That's a different. 10 packages of meats and cheese, all vacuum wrapped, vacuum sealed, no label on them, but hey, that's usually some good cheese. That's what the Ritz crackers is for. Wow. In part, I got enough Ritz crackers for all that. You don't want me to starve to death. I assume that stuff will last a long time too. Okay. And then there's a package of meats here. All right, what else we got here? We got Reed's pepper jack cheese. Ooh, Reed's pepper jack cheese. I bet that's going to be good. And we got these sausages here. This is also, I guess, Reed's maybe. Yeah. Reed's buffalo and blue cheese. Ooh, blue cheese. Mmm. Yum, yum. That. Wow. Well, he's trying to take care of him. He don't be starved to death. I'll have plenty of snacks for a while, won't I? Yeah, he usually throws something real funny in here, but that's all good stuff. All right, so my friend, that cost him a pretty penny, I know. The only reason not to throw Minnesota to Canada would be to keep Brian Prendy in the United States. I know he don't want to be part of Canada. Yes, he's proof that you do have conservatives in Minnesota. And he raises chickens, by the way. He does do some YouTubing. So he does have a YouTube channel. Brian Prendy. Yeah, he's a guy with a lot of humor. Weeks of constipation. Oh no. Yeah, thank you. That's my channel. I just put a video on there about surviving AI. Things. Had a guy who talked about how to keep AI from wiping us out. It is basically a system to make us not a threat to AI. So God bless and be wise. Okay. Jack links to draw a female Sasquatch. Well, that's the last thing I need. Woo-wee. Female Sasquatch. Yeah, I had a friend who sent me a video of female Sasquatch. She was going after a guy named Greg, and I thought, oh my God, that was crazy. All right, guys. Egg guess time. Go. How many eggs did I get today? Pentagon to end academic ties with Harvard. Yes. There's a video on the Department of War website with Hegseth talking about that exactly. I thought about playing that tonight even. I might tomorrow sometime. I like it. It's smart. How many eggs to harvest today? All right, we got one guess. Keep going. Gregory Stevens, how you doing? New day's guest. Keep going. Or we can keep going. I love Greg and this channel. I want to see him grow, but I like it like this. Keep going. Nobody got it yet. Yeah, one of these eggs has got a bunch of straw on it. Keep going. Nobody. Sometimes the first guest gets it, but not today, not yet. Keep going. Well, there we got it. Gregory Stevens. Gregory Stevens got it. First one to get the right number for today. 3, One of them got a bunch of strong. I don't wash the eggs, guys, because I want to keep the bloom on them so they won't spoil. I can keep them room temperature like this. All right, so it was 3. And Gregory Stevens got it first. So salute to you, Gregory Stevens. 3 eggs. 3 eggs today. Yes, so yesterday, I got what Roger said. Yesterday, I got 10 eggs. That's the most I've got from these hens since I've had them. I had 10 eggs yesterday. Now, I've been noticing they got some kind of a thing going. They'll lay a bunch and they'll lay a few. They'll lay a bunch and lay a few. So I might have a good harvest tomorrow. We'll have to see. Yesterday, I actually got 10 eggs. That's the most I've ever had of them so far. I'm told they'll lay 12 to 14 eggs in summer. Yeah, I got them from. Or when it warms up, probably spring, summer, maybe early fall. They'll lay a lot of eggs. But, 10 eggs yesterday was impressive for wintertime. Because hens really don't lay much this time of the year. So I did well with that. 3 eggs. All righty. So I've gone through the notes, gone through the news, opened Brian's package, and we talked eggs. We did the egg count. So I'm going to give a hats off to Ed over in what's the name of Ed's channel? Help me out, guys. I'm getting brain lock again. He used to live in New York, now he's in West Virginia. Oh my Lord. I like his channel. I can't even think of the name of it right now. Come on, guys, you know what I'm talking about. Ed, he's got his, oh my gosh, I can't think of this channel name right now. I got 12 hens and a rooster. I got 4 Easter eggers, 1 leghorn, and the rest of the hens are dominators. And I got a Rhode Island red rooster. Prepper Nurse 1. Thank you. Prepper Nurse 1. Exactly, New Days. I was getting brain lock. Yeah, he has people guess how many eggs he gets. So I kind of copied that from him. So I got to give him a shout out. He's gave me a lot of shout. He's a really good guy. So I can't say I'm exactly still in the thunder because he's always going to have a different number of eggs than me. His egg count will always be different than mine, or usually. So I'm not here to steal his thunder, but it's just a cool game to play. So I did get the idea from him. So credit to Ed over at Prepper Nurse 1. Go watch his channel, and when you go over, tell him I sent you. So Greg Allison, Green Greg sent me here. Yeah, he's got a good channel. He's a good guy. I like his channel. Real good guy. So I give a shout out to him. Is the cold affecting them? Not too bad. They seem to be doing okay. They seem to be doing well. Gregory has won a self-paid expenses paid trip to Las Wages. Yes, exactly. Bring your accommodations with you, Gregory. Tent works well. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be in the street and Las Wages in a tent. Well, there are a lot of homeless people probably that live underneath the city there. And hello from the Philippines. Missouri man here. So you're a Missouri man living in the Philippines. All right. Steve Poplar was over in Pennsylvania, and he's got a home in, I believe, South Dakota, but he's in the Philippines. So he married a Filipino, so he spends probably half his time in the Philippines now, and maybe more than half. So he went to the Philippines. Yes, sir. He's a good guy. He's got a good channel too, so I give him a shout out. And we got Cohen over Riverside Prepper, another good channel. There's a lot of good channels out here. You're telling me I would need 8 hens for 3 eggs a day? No. They will lay really well when it warms up. Hens don't usually lay this time of the year. So they cut back on the egg laying this time of the year. So you don't need 8 hens for 3 eggs a day. Although that may be what you get in the wintertime. That's more than they lay more eggs than I eat, even in the winter. Hello, good morning, Nicholas. Nicholas Fioacci. I don't know. I probably can't pronounce that right. Anyway, alrighty, guys. We've gone for a while. We've probably been too long in here tonight. We're at 114 minutes, almost 2 hours. We still got 101 in the room here. Before we go, it's always possible that we might have somebody like Kim Possible in the house who's maybe too busy. She works at night, but when she's in the house, she will send me a donation through my website. Let's see if I got anything today. Oh, no email from her. Did get a low battery alert on one of my cameras. Oh, I have to check that out. My trail camera's got a low battery alert warning on here. All righty. So guess she's not in the house tonight. So yeah, I like to give credit where credit's due. Do people eat roosters? Yes. Because you only need a few roosters, but you need a lot of hens. When the eggs hatch, probably half of them are roosters usually. And you don't need a lot of roosters. You need hens for eggs. So roosters are quite often wind up on the chopping block and in the pot. And a lot of old hens, when they don't lay eggs, they wind up in a pot too, but usually for stew because that meat's going to be hard. So yes, you eat roosters. Thank you for visiting with Greg. There we go. Thank you. So, mods, you've been busy tonight, especially New Days. New Days has been real busy as a mod tonight. So I appreciate y'all keeping the channel clean. So salute to the mods, especially New Days. She was doing quadruple duty. Hey, Judy Paul, yes, that is the right answer. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I put out a heavy message tonight, real heavy message, but we did end on a light note, opening up Brian's package and then her egg guess. So that's one reason I like the egg guess. It's kind of a light note. It's always we get to play a little game when we have a live session here. Y'all can check out, I got two other channels, maybe need as posting links. I have Swivelhead News. I put more of the political oriented stuff on Swivelhead News these days. And I've got Galactic Greg's. You guys put a Galactic Greg's link in earlier. And I'm about to post a video on the history, how we wound up with this SLS rocket. Because I was intimately involved in that process. So you'll get to see that. And that's coming up real soon. I've already got the video recorded. I just got to figure out when I want it to premiere. Probably Sunday, maybe Monday or Tuesday, but it's ready to go. I just want to put it up when I get, and I'll do a live premiere. That's about a 20-minute video. So, and I'll probably do that early one afternoon or and probably about 3 o'clock my time. I'm mountain time right now. So, Witness for Justice. Hey, that's a good name. Witness for Justice. So, Chinook Preparedness. Hey, are you in, where are you at, Chinook Preparedness? Are you in Alaska? Yeah, we always call it a warm breeze in Alaska, Chinook. We got a Chinook helicopter. So, all right, Chinook, where you at? Thank you, New Days, for posting that. And almost 4, yeah, you must be East Coast. I got to go. I got to get up in the morning. I got to get a bunch of wood chips for my all these holes I've been digging, all these trenches out here. So I have some good sunken beds. I got some decayed wood chips to pick up. A whole lot. It's going to take a whole lot to fill these beds up. Anyway, once again, thank you, mods. Special salute to New Days. She posts links and she throws a lot. Foothills of Alberta. Okay, very good. Yes, it can. I get that. Yeah, I can see Chinooks in Alberta. I have been through Alberta myself. Beautiful country up there. And so is Western British Columbia. I've been through the Yukon Territory. I drove back from Alaska. That's how I got out of the Army at Fort Greely, Alaska. I ETS there and I drove home from there. So I kind of took a little detour down the left coast. Yeah, I went through Vancouver and down the left coast, and then came across to the big crack in the ground, across the Mojave Desert. I hit that big crack in the ground. I turned right, and I drove to the cactuses, looked like this. Then I turned left and drove home. Didn't even go through Albuquerque, so I didn't make a wrong turn in Albuquerque. Boy, I've been through over there a lot in the past 3 years, though. Anyway, again, thank you, everyone. And please share my videos. Please share them. We got to get the word out. I don't get a lot of views here. Nowhere near like a lot of other channels. And I bring you information nobody else brings you. Like uranium hexafluoride. I've not heard anybody talk about that at all, anywhere. Warm Chinook winds come down from the Rockies. Yes. Well, we used to get them coming up out of the Gulf of Alaska. They'd blow through the Elizabeth Pass. Well, we had some horrendous winds up there in Fort Greely. Horrendous winds. No sleep for me. You got wood chips. I have an ice fishing tournament. All right, very good for you. Oh, you're gonna be a busy girl. Which highway are you close to? Oh, okay. All right, folks. So thank you all again. And I'm gonna say to one and all, a good day, good night, wherever you are. Ho, ho, ho.